Hey everyone, Starshin here. In this video I want to have a look at everyone's favorite city improvement of the Cities and Knights expansion. And I'm sorry to disappoint some of you, but well, it won't be the market which I will analyze today. Today's topic will be the Aqueduct, and I want to answer the most asked questions which you will probably have about it. Let's check this out. Alright, so what exactly is the Aqueduct? The Aqueduct is a city improvement, and to be more precise, it is the third city improvement of the Science Tech tree. Whenever you don't get a card from your settlements or cities because you haven't settled on the rolled number, like for example on the picture, or your tile is blocked by the robber and the number which rolled is not a 7, you can choose one resource card. So it works super simple, right? What does the Aqueduct cost me? The third city improvement costs 3 paper itself, but you need 3 paper in advance to unlock the lower levels, which results in a total cost of 6 paper for the Aqueduct. What are the advantages I get from it? Well, that is a hard question to answer because the Aqueduct has very many not so obvious advantages. First of all, it of course improves your production. Depending on your number diversity, you can choose more or less cards. For example, on this board, if blue has the Aqueduct, it could choose a resource on every 2, 5, 6, 11 or 12. In this case, the player will get 13 cards every 36 rolls, on average, which is the same value as the best possible settlement spot in the game. Keep in mind that after you have the Aqueduct unlocked, you want your number diversity to be low. Doubling up on numbers is therefore something great. You want to get many cards on the numbers you already have, and building on new numbers can temporarily be a disadvantage for you. What I mean with that is, if you have a look again on the board from before, after a couple of turns, blue decided to build a settlement on the 10 wood, while he could have also taken the 3 for 11. And while the 3 for 11 is of course a better production than the 10 only, it has one problem. Whenever we roll an 11, blue gets a sheep from it. However, maybe it doesn't need a sheep. If it doesn't settle on the 11, it could choose a card from the resource bank. Of course, we all love our sheep. But the thing is, choosing a resource card from the bank is just a little bit better, because you can also take resources which you are not as likely to get. And if you want a sheep, you can still choose it. The board is also a great example why it can make sense in Cities and Knights to block yourself. In the current situation, it's better for blue if the 4 or the 9 is blocked, just because you can choose a resource card than just getting a brick or ore. Moving on to the next advantage, the Aqueduct of course drastically balances your production. I think everyone knows the situation where you have so many cards in hand and can do nothing because you miss one specific resource. With the Aqueduct, this is less of a problem because every time you can choose a card, you of course pick up cards which you otherwise won't get that easily. It also makes you less dependent on trading with the bank, using ports, using progress cards, or trade with your opponents. Activating your knights is also way more easy because always when you get to choose a resource, you can choose a weed to activate them. As you don't get any victory points by unlocking the Aqueduct, you are also less likely to be affected by saboteurs, master merchants or weddings. Getting blocked can, depending on the situation, also be less of a problem, because no matter where the robber is standing, you at least get one resource card in the absolutely worst case. While this can of course not compensate the value of the cards you might lose from the robber, it is at least something. Also, the robber placements might change a little bit, and can be a very little advantage if your opponents are experienced players. Getting back to our board again, it makes more sense for other players to block one of the 2 9s, while the 8 or 10 seems to be the better spot on first glance. For blue, that means that it is at least maybe not the only person to be blocked. Well, at least if I placed other settlements on the board. Finally, the Aqueduct can also help in a limited way to get a metropolis. If you have a 2 for 1 trading option, choosing a resource card which you can trade like that is comparable to half of a commodity. While this doesn't sound like much, it can make a small difference if you are in a fight and need to upgrade as fast as possible. Here, well, that were kind of many pros for the Aqueduct, right? But of course there are also some small disadvantages, which brings me to my next question. What are the disadvantages of the Aqueduct? Well, while you can choose resource card to trade for commodities, you can't choose the commodities itself. While you are also less affected by the robber, the Aqueduct makes you, because of the many advantages, a big target for the robber. Also, as the attention is most of the time on you while you decide to take a resource from the Aqueduct, players may consider that while they play a resource monopoly. As you also take rare resources very often with the aqueduct is really hard countered by the resource monopoly. Furthermore, in the end, fast VPs are the only thing which you normally focus on, so the aqueduct is less likely to pay off well. The aqueduct kind of forces you to do something also if your hand is not really great. The chance that you 7 out is higher than normally, because you get a card almost every turn, no matter what you roll. Moving on to the next question, can multiple players have the aqueduct? Well, yes of course, the aqueduct can be unlocked by everyone. Can I have more than one aqueduct? No. No, you can't have more than one aqueduct. Except you're cheating. Does the aqueduct still give me resources, although I don't have a city left? Yes, all city improvements and advantages which were unlocked before you lost all your cities don't disappear, and you still can use the bonuses or get progress cards. The aqueduct is no exception there. When should I consider unlocking the aqueduct? That is very situational and depends very much on the rolling numbers, the progress cards you get, and your bank trading options. To make it more simple though, if you want to get the aqueduct, you should get it as early as possible. The longer the game lasts, the more does the aqueduct pay off. So for example, getting the aqueduct in turn 30 is of course way better than in turn 50, where the overall production is just way better. But if you can get the aqueduct easily, like for example the 2 goes crazy, you should always consider it as an option, also if the game is super close to end. If you need 1 or 2 simple 2-for-1 trades, that should also not really bother you. Of course it gets way more difficult if you could do some other great moves with your cards instead of activating the aqueduct. But always keep in mind that the aqueduct is more than just a couple of resources from time to time. It can be a big game changer, and winning without it can take forever if 2 goes crazy. Alright, so that's it. I hope I was able to give you some valuable information about my personal favorite city improvement. I would be really interested what you think about the aqueduct, and also if you liked the video. Have a nice day and see you in the next one.